Hey guys, this is Spiffy Guy and I'm back here with another Around the Home video, and this time we're going to be making a new garden barrel. We're going to put our twist on this one. We're going to combine the original garden barrel with the self-wicking containers to make a self-wicking garden barrel. So stick around. Alright, so as I mentioned, we're going to be using a garden barrel design. You can see I got a little kale here left over from last year. It's already rocking. We're going to plant this out this weekend. But the garden barrel has got, 54 plants in a 4 square foot area, so it uses space efficiently. On this particular model though, we're going to remove the compost tube at the top, and we're going to add in the wicking barrel components. So if you're not familiar with this, go ahead and click up here. Let's see, we'll put it right over here by the kale, a link to the video. And then these are the wicking containers. They're doing an excellent job keeping my green onions and my regular onions rolling. And so we want to use this this conservation of water technique on this new garden barrel that we're going to put strawberries in. So if you're interested in these two barrels, go ahead and click on the green onions up here, and I'll put a link to the build video for that. But let me show you what we're gonna use to build our new strawberry wicking garden barrel. When you're putting your barrel in, you want to make sure that you got a good spot that's going to be level with lots of sun. This whole area of my garden gets basically full sun all day, which is going to be perfect for strawberries. You can see that I've already plumbed a hard line in for irrigation that you can see on a different video. But what I'm using is some pavers, some leftover scraps of pavers actually, and some paving sand to kind of level it all out. Let me pull the barrel off and I'll show you exactly what I got. You can see it was a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle here to kind of get everything to fit into place. I'll put the paving sand down and I'll kind of level it off, and as I put the bricks in there, I'll make sure that it's nice and level so we get proper drainage. When the barrel is full of water, it'll drain out right. And I have this one along the back because I am on a hill, and so I'll use that piece as a way to ensure that erosion doesn't kind of push in and move the barrel or anything like that. It's pretty much the same scenario I used over here on the other garden barrel, except that one has feet. All right, there you go. It's not rocket science. Just try to get it level enough that the water isn't going to be at a strange angle. It's going to be stable. That's the big thing, is making sure that it's not going to fall over. I have a feeling I'm going to have to replace the legs on this one at some point, probably 2-3 years. They kind of get a little moisture on the bottom. I need to weed whack a little bit better. So having no legs is an awesome way to go. And even if you don't want to do the self-wicking part on this particular barrel, you can do a regular garden barrel and just remove the compost tube at the top, because a lot of folks ask me whether or not you need to compost, and you don't. You really don't. So if you remove the compost, you don't have the bottom part jutting out, and you can remove the legs and just stick it directly on the ground. So anyway, let's get building this barrel. Alright, so before we start building, let's talk tools and things that we're going to need. Obviously we're building a garden barrel, so you're going to need a barrel. Okay, you're going to want to make sure that you get one that is food safe. It's contained some sort of food material. This particular one has contained the food safe cleaning stuff that they use for soda plants. So a good place to get them is one of the Coke, Pepsi dealerships. I find mine on Craigslist. I got a guy I've been buying from. I bought like 4 of them now, and he only charges me $10. So $10 for a 55-gallon is great. You could do the same thing with a 20-gallon. If you have access to those, it would just be a little bit smaller. Other good places to look for these kind of barrels is check with your local municipality, because they may have a rainwater reclamation project, and a lot of times you can buy these super cheap. My city doesn't do it, but the city over does. So check with soda distributors, that sort of thing. You can find places, schools, so you're going to need a barrel, right? We're going to end up cutting the top of the barrel off, so you're going to need something to cut it with. Let's just throw that out there. If you're using power tools, be safe. You can't eat your food if you don't have any fingers, okay? All right, so what else do we need? Well, we're going to, at the bottom here, we're going to create a void, and this is where our water is going to lie, okay? So in the last video, or the last one, I used rain gutter material, perforated tube. It was a long 10-foot section. This one is an 8-foot section. It was about the same price, and it's flexible. You see how it is kind of the accordion style. I thought it might work a little bit better to fit into the bottom, so I figured I'd give it a try. So you could use whatever you want. You know, we're just trying to create an area where dirt and rocks aren't going to go, but it's going to allow water to sit. I have some rocks left over that we can use to also help fill the cavity. We're going to put shade cloth around the bottom there, so none of our dirt and stuff gets down into our water reservoir. So we're going to need some sort of weed fabric. This is weed barrier. This is like the 30-year kind, so it's super heavy duty, but it's still water permeable. And then we're going to need the material that we're going to make for our wicking material. I'm using sand and peat moss. Okay, I really like using the paver sand because it's a finer grain. I find it works a little bit better. You can use whatever you want. They make a custom, I believe, commercial wicking material. So whatever you want, that's going to be our core on the inside. Some additional things we're going to need is some scraps of PVC that is going to be long enough to be a fill pipe. So it's going to basically a tube that'll go down. We'll talk about that later. I have some 3/4 left over from our irrigation project. I'll probably use that. And I have some 1/2 inch that I'll probably use as a drain port, a little 6-inch port coming out there, so our reservoir can drain and it won't be overfilled. That's pretty much about it. So the first thing that we need to do, though, to build this is we got to pop the top off and find out what's inside. All right, let's see what's in this.
Strawberry monsters!
Alright, so when it comes to spacing where your pockets are going to be, that's entirely up to you and the plants that you're going to put into your own little barrel. I'm planning on using this for strawberries, so I don't need things too far apart. You don't have to use strawberries, you can use whatever you want. But the idea is that you'll have one row of pockets, offset will be a second row of pockets. Now I made a spacer, I figured it out, and I made a spacer. I'm making my pockets 4 inches wide, and I'm trying this new thing where I make this sort of upside down frown here, and then I get a little bit better lip, as you can see right here. So what I did is I made my 4-inch template, and then I made a little 3.5-inch spacer, and then I went around all the way around the top, and that's sort of my starting point. I ended up with 9 pockets all the way across the top. So then I'll just come to the next row and offset. I'm just eyeballing these. You can see that I have blue lines on here. What I did is I started at this little lip up here, and I went down 3.25 inches, and then 3.25 inches all the way down to this line. That's going to give me 6 rows, and that should be what, like 54 strawberry plants. That's a lot of strawberry plants. So down here is pretty much kind of where I wanted to stop, because that's going to be the water reservoir, which we'll talk about once we get all the pockets made. But this is 10 inches from the bottom. If you're not going to be putting in the water reservoir, then you could go all the way down to the ground if you want. You could do whatever you want. It's your bucket. So to make these pockets, it's pretty simple. Once you have them marked, I'm going to drill a 3/8 inch hole here. And why am I drilling a 3/8 inch hole? Because that's how wide my saw blade is. So I need to be able to get my jigsaw in there so I can jigsaw the little half moon circle. Once I do that, I heat up this whole area with my heat gun set to high at like 1050 or whatever it is. Once it's pliable and I can pull it out, then I stick in my there we go, my little shim here. Now some people suggested a bottle. I tried that, it fell and broke. I kind of figured it would. So I took 2 pieces of cedar 2x4, I put them together, I 45'd the corners, and then I sort of went to town with it with my belt sander, just to try to kind of give it a little bit of tapered shape and a little bit roundedness. So as you can see, that's what my pocket looks like. Now it's helpful when you're trying to push this thing in and hold the heat gun on it and all that sort of thing. Put some weight in there. So I put in my sand and my rocks. You can put bricks, you can put a child, whatever you want in there. Just make sure the child doesn't get burned when you heat up the plastic. And so you can kind of get the rhythm going where you have the plug in one while you're heating the next one. Once the next one's pliable and ready to move, you can kind of pull that up and stick it in there, and it's not going to retract back into its original shape. It's cool enough that it will kind of stay in the shape that you put it in. So we're just moving along. This is the labor intensive part. We're just going to put in all of the pockets.